Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another Voice Essentials live hangout. And no sooner had I pressed the stream to go live than Karen had jumped in. Like, I think it's almost like, Karen, you've been waiting there ready to go. So that was, wow, where'd you come from? I'm looking forward to today's hangout. I think we're going to have a bit of fun with today. And what I want to do is talk about conspiracy theories / wives' tales around this whole thing we call singing, because I think there's some fun to be had in just unpacking and dispelling some of the myths as we, around this thing we call singing. And I want you to be able to offer your insights into some of the things that you've been told and have come to learn are not the case. And I've written some down here, but I really want to throw it out to you today for you guys to let me know in the live chat, which we'll bring up in a second. Of course, let me know where you are from. Let the whole community here know where you're from. I'm here in Brisbane, Australia. It is around about, it's right on 2:30 in the afternoon. The weather here is all over the shop. Last night it was cold and we woke up to, well, this is the first morning that I had to start the studio with the air conditioning on. So that gives you an indication we're starting to heat up here. Let us know what it's like in your part of the world, where you're from. And of course, if this is the first time you've ever joined one of our live chats, welcome. We hope that you enjoy your time with us all. We're a friendly bunch. And we've got a whole heap of regulars who are already jumping in, ready to have the live chat, which we'll come to in a second. So it's going to be a good afternoon. Well, it's probably evening for many of you, but we're going to have the next 30 or 40 minutes together, and we're going to hang out and talk our passion, which is singing, and I'm looking forward to doing that with you for the next 30, 40 minutes. Let's get into it.
Sound check. Check 1, check 2.
So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Dan and I'm a contemporary singing voice specialist, and we hang out here live at least once a week, generally on a Monday or a Tuesday. Today being Tuesday, we're getting in a little bit late. It took me a little while to find a spot to do it, because I do these live hangouts as a part of my everyday studio work. I have at any given moment between 60 to 70 clients over a fortnight, bi-weekly, so I'm often trying to find a cancellation or a spot where I can hang out with you guys and answer your questions. And we are going to do that a little bit later in the show. We'll be answering your questions, so make sure you leave your questions in the live chat thing there. And of course, if you're watching this after the live chat, after we've been live, then make sure you leave your questions in the comments section below this video, down below, and I'll be sure to do my best to answer your questions. I am not omniscient in the sense I don't know everything, but where I can, I try to help you and direct you towards better singing, because here at Voice Essentials, that's what we want to do. We want to really get the full potential out of our singing voice. And so it's good to be hanging out here. I see that Breeze jumped in here. It's 12:30. Why are you people still up? I think it's awesome that you join in. But I think Voice Essentials is full of insomniacs from the Northern Hemisphere. But I do think it's Karen's. It's 12:30 a.m. there as well. So wowzers, I am not up at that hour. I must admit, when my head hits the pillow, I'm out. Even when we had our kids and they were newborns, I must admit, if Jodie ever needed me to get up to them, she had to wrestle me to get me up and to get to the babies, because I just didn't hear them. I am literally the heaviest sleeper on the planet. Nonetheless, let's turn our conversation over to discussing these wives' tales, and I want you to leave in the live chat. Jump in there, guys. Make sure you're letting us know what is those things that you've been told about singing that after a while, with a bit of research, you found and learnt whether it was through this channel or through someone else's channel, or whether it was through your private singing teacher, that you learnt was not actually the case. So for example, you know, I think a lot of us still live with this conception that dairy is not good for your singing. Now that's an interesting one, because there's a recent research study that has had a look at dairy and the impact of dairy on your voice, and they found that in fact there is no significant change to the mucosa, the lining of the vocal tract, when we have dairy. Now that goes completely against what we have probably for centuries thought about the impact of dairy on our voice. Of course, we have to measure this against our anecdotal understanding. So for example, I kind of know, in fact, I had a smoothie for lunch today, a health smoothie. I do my best to look after myself, and I had my smoothie for lunch with, apple and carrot and kale and, some oats and some ginger and milk and yogurt. So there's some dairy stuff in there. And for the first half an hour after I drunk it, because I then went straight into teaching a session, I did feel a bit cluggy. Now, but the research tells us that in fact there is no significant change to the viscosity of the mucosa when we have dairy. So that's interesting, isn't it? That research is actually showing that what we necessarily are experiencing may not be as true as we once thought, and in making that mental adjustment, maybe we're able to, recognize that dairy is not really the, naughty that we once thought it was. The same for coffee. You are going to be so pleased to learn, for those of you who are coffee lovers, leave me a thumbs up if you're a coffee lover. I would be hitting the thumbs like constantly. I am a coffee drinker. I grind my own bean, love coffee. And for so long, I loved coffee with this absolute mantle of guilt that I lived with, because for so long we had been told that coffee was a heavy diuretic, that it was draining your body of fluid and all these things. And of course, we now know that from research, I am pleased to let you all know that coffee is not the evil that we once thought. It is still, and we still have to account for the fact that it's highly acidic. And so for those of us who suffer from reflux, hand up for Daniel, for those of us who suffer from reflux, we have to be mindful of that. But it is no longer in the nasty, naughty but nice sort of list. We can drink our coffee with less guilt. Let me jump over here and see if we've got any other suggestions yet. Let me jump over here. I'm just making some adjustments to our page. So what have we got over here? Have we got any suggestions here as to music lover? I've been told that only a few people are singers. And that's a great one, music lover. The reality is we all can sing. It is a myth that, in fact, I was presenting a vocal seminar to a church very local to me, actually. It was nice to not have to travel far for once to do one of these seminars on Saturday morning, and to about 50 people, and we talked about this idea. And this is one of the significant pillars of my studio is it is the birthright of every human being to sing. And I do not buy into this elitism within Western culture that says that only certain people can sing. That's like saying only certain people can walk. No, we all have for the most part, we're all born with the capacity to walk, unless we are disabled in some way. And so, but to say that you're not allowed to walk because we've got walkers and non-walkers is ridiculous. And the same thing goes with our voice. To say that we have singers and non-singers is crazy. And so, absolutely, music lover, that is an absolute wives' tale, that some people are born to sing and some aren't. I tell you, some people choose to sing more often than not, and dare say the vast majority of people participating in my channel are people who love to sing. It's something that they're passionate about, and not everyone falls into that category, but nonetheless, it is important to recognize that, hey, not everyone, that everyone is born to sing. A little Freudian slip there for a moment. Okay, jumping over to here. Bree, I never fall asleep until after 1 a.m. Well, that's crazy, Bree. I would not, do you know what? I would not be a nice person to be around if I got less than 7 hours sleep. I need to get my 7 hours sleep. So, let's jump in here. I'm looking for some more. This is back up the top here. We've got Rudan. Hopefully that's how I say your name, Rudan. The tongue position. The tongue position does tend to be an interesting. I think Jody must be printing something out behind me. If you can hear that, I wonder what has she printed? Oh no, it's just a receipt. The tongue position. Yeah, the tongue position is an interesting one. I've got a good video, in my humble opinion, on the channel about tongue position and the impact that can have on your voice. So make sure you check that out. Check out the video and you can have a look at that. The tongue position is a good thing to be mindful of. I'm jumping down here. Rebecca's saying that that her worship team singers will love hearing about this, about the coffee, I dare say, Beck, that you're talking about there. Yes, but be measured. When it comes to reflux, it can be a challenge. So just be conscious of that. That's good, because I didn't know that about coffee being good for asthma. And my pills usually stop the reflux. Bree, I take your point about the pills stopping your reflux. I try to manage it by managing those dietary items that set your reflux off. Taking a pill, yeah, can be helpful if you're not able to manage your reflux through diet. So, work on your diet first, and that might mean cutting back your coffee intake, and then take the pill if it doesn't work that way around. What have we got down here? Manab is saying, I wish to take up classical lessons to gain some theoretical knowledge of music. I have two options here in India, Indian classical music versus Western classical music. So what kind of music would you advise me to pursue? Well, that gives us a good launching point to discuss this next, another wives' tale. And that wives' tale is that if you want to sing anything, that you need to learn classical singing. And I think this is a good opportunity for me to beat one of my regular drums, and that is, you do not need classical singing to be able to sing anything. You need task-specific training. If you want to be an Indian classical music a singer, and you want to work in Indian classical music, then you absolutely should pursue that. If you want to do Western classical music, then you should pursue that kind of training. If you want to be a contemporary singer, if you want to sing rock, pop, country, many of the modern music theatre genres, for example, Wicked or Chess or even Jesus Christ Superstar, the rock musicals, much of jazz, you need a contemporary mechanistic setup. And I've got some videos here online that when I released them about 2 years ago, created all sorts of controversy, and there's a whole heap of people that disagree with me. I would venture to say that those people who do disagree with me on this point are now disagreeing with the vast weight of literature and research in this area. It is just a well-grounded part of the knowledge now that if you want to sing particular types of music, you need to be task-specific. Set your voice up to sing the material that you want. And so for many of us here on this channel, that means you need to set your voice up with a contemporary mechanism. The difference between the disciplines, between contemporary and classical, is significant to the point where I would never choose to allow myself to be teaching classical voice, because I don't know anything about, I know a little bit because my first 2 years at the Queensland Conservatorium were classical, but that was forever ago. And now my thing is contemporary voice, and that's where I spend my time and my efforts. And I encourage you to become task specific in your you know, what you're choosing to sing. So for example, if you are choosing to sing, let me just, I'm trying to, sorry everyone, I'm trying to get something right here. Bear with me. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. What was I saying? I've lost my train of thought. I got distracted by having to manage all of this stuff that's going on here. So be task specific is what I'm saying to you. And so, was it Manab? Make sure you do the same. Let's come back over here and have a look at some of our questions. Just on that note, and let's just take a very quick little ad break, and you can have a look here at my 7 Days to a Better Voice. And this program starts to, and it's completely free, starts to set you up in a contemporary mechanism so that you can start developing your voice and developing some technique. And so let's just take a quick ad break. And so hopefully that is something, if you haven't already participated in that, jump across to 7 Days to a Better Voice, sign up, it's free, and it'll send you, every day it'll send you a new email, new technique, something to get you started. And I've never not said this on the channel, you know, eventually you do get to a point in learning voice where you need that private tuition, you need that private instruction. One thing that 7 Days to a Better Voice can't do, or any program that is online, that where you're not actually there with the person and receiving the instruction, you really do need that. Eventually you need that person in a room or online, the person that's with you live and is listening to you live, that can instruct and correct and diagnose faults and those sorts of things. So yeah, have a look at that. Let's come back over here to our discussion. Okay, Singwise is saying cutting all grains out of her diet. This is from Karen, eliminated reflux. Yeah, we all have different triggers with our reflux, don't we? And obviously for Karen, grains was something that needed to be cut out. Look, for me, I need to just be really attentive to how much coffee do I drink, what is my stress level, and equally I have to be careful of alcohol. I have to be careful of scotch, and I do have to be careful of very spicy foods. So we've all got different triggers. It's learning what your trigger is, and then learning to manage your diet accordingly. Now, so we're talking today about some of our wives' tales. Let me tell you about a really fun one that I had once upon a time, and I'll bring this across. So one that I heard, and this was, I had a student come into the studio about 10 years ago, and I've never forgotten this one, and it was that the person told me that they'd been told by somebody, and this is how these wives' tales sort of start up. You know, in the area of singing, learning to sing, there is a great deal of monkey see, monkey do. Unfortunately, there's a lot of blind monkeys, and so it's often the blind leading the blind monkey leading the blind monkey. And so we've got to be careful of this in the area of singing, especially given that we come from an era It's only in the last 20 or 30 years, with maybe 40, 50 years, where we've really, there's been a lot of concerted research. In fact, as we speak, voice is the most researched instrument on the planet. And but that wasn't the case, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And so wives' tales had the opportunity to really develop. And so this one that I heard 10 years ago was great. And that was that you shouldn't eat lettuce because the shards that make up the lettuce strands would get stuck in your pharyngeal wall and would cause you all sorts of issues. Now, to my knowledge, that is an absolute load of baloney. Unless I'm missing something, I've never encountered any singer that has a massive issue with lettuce. And if a person does have an issue with lettuce, then it's probably an allergy to lettuce, though I've never met anyone with an allergy to lettuce. Not an issue that it's an issue with your singing. It's a more sort of systemic issue at play. So these are the sort of things that we hear. Another one is, if you ever want to, heal your voice, if you've got a really, worn out voice, that you should be drinking hot tea or hot water with lemon. Now, it is true to say that will be soothing and it will give you a sensory relief. But remember, it's not touching your vocal folds. When you drink any fluid, if it does touch your vocal folds, you are drowning. And you've got bigger issues at play than the care of your voice. You are now drowning and you are going to die. No, the fluid certainly washes through your vocal tract, goes down your esophagus, into your stomach, and is then the fluid and any goodness and nutrients, minerals, vitamins that may or may not be a part of that fluid or that solid, whether it be food, then has to be digested and become a part of your bloodstream before that fluid can then rehydrate the larynx itself. And so things like honey drinks and whatever, I'm not telling you not to use them, because they certainly do give us a sensory benefit, but that is what they're doing. They're not really reducing any level of swelling at the level of the vocal folds, which is where we really experience a significant amount of our sense of fatigue vocally. So just be mindful of that. Jumping back over here to have a look to see if we've got any other suggestions. Karen, well, Karen, if that's the case, you and I need to swap. I'll be happy to not eat the grains and cut grains out of my diet so that I can eat the spicy food, and you can do the opposite. I think my audio just dropped in and out. Hopefully you can still hear me. Okay. So Karen's saying here, I could eat all the spicy food in the world and not be bothered by it. You lucky duck. Okay. Bartek's saying he's got a hiatus hernia. And yeah, okay. Well, that's a more significant issue that for many people will often lead down the road of surgery, Bartek. And so I'm sure you are in discussion with your general practitioner and a specialist around that. And it's certainly not for me to give you any more advice around that. You need to talk to your medical practitioners. Okay. Kangalbro says here, when I was 17, my voice popped when I was singing, and now I can't sing past certain notes without coughing violently. What would you recommend I do to get back? Oh, okay. Kangalbro, what I would be suggesting to you, and I don't want to alarm you in talking about this, but when singers refer to a popping in the voice, that can suggest some issues around the health of the vocal vocal folds, and I'm going to stop short of suggesting what that may or may not be. What I would want you to do, Kangal Bro, is actually go and have your voice looked at by a laryngologist. I would want to, for example, if you stepped into my studio and in our orientation and analysis session you said, hey, 12 years ago my voice popped and now it's just always, always raspy and it hurts and I always cough whenever I use my voice. That would lead me to want to direct you to one of the laryngologists that I work in team with. I would want to have a look at and assess the current health of your voice to ensure that there's nothing untowards going on there, so that if there is, we can deal with it, and if there isn't, then maybe anything that we may come into contact or have issue with we know that it's simply a functional issue as opposed to an organic one, and so that would be my advice. I certainly wouldn't want you to be thinking that you can't sing, because you can, and with the right person instructing you, and if necessary, traveling the journey of some speech therapy, you can most definitely, all things being equal, be able to use your voice again and get the joy out of it that I know that you probably remember from 12 years ago. And so, Kangal Bro, I don't think all is lost, but that's what I'd be encouraging you to do before you move forward. Let's just quickly discuss one of the other, what's it referred to as wives' tales that we hear, is that we're talking earlier about singing, not task-specific singing lessons. The other wives' tale that I actually have heard is you don't need singing lessons to learn to sing. I really struggle with this concept, and a lot of people, I think, when they hear me talking about it, and I'm sure Karen, you can jump on the live chat and talk about this. When people hear me say, look, no, you do need singing lessons, I'm sure people think that, well, of course I'm going to say that because I'm going to get monetary benefit from it. No, look, here's the deal. The best tennis players in the world all have coaches. If you think of, and do you know what? We always see this whenever a leading tennis player, for whatever reason, has a falling out with their coaches and they're between coaches, more often than not, their game suffers. Why? Because even if you are the best in the world, you are not perfect. You are not infallible. Your body will have a propensity to start to get lazy, and we always need that external person to assist us, to direct us. And of course, that's what we do here. I do that in the studio here every day of the week. I provide that external set of ears and eyes and a bit of knowledge to direct and correct. And so, don't fall for that little misnomer of, oh, you don't need singing lessons, you're just great as it is. Hey, you might be great. Even more reason to go and invest in quality singing lessons, because if you're good now and you've never had instruction, imagine what you could be with instruction. And it's always is so disappointing to me to hear celebrity singers say, oh no, I've never had a singing lesson. What a tragedy. Really what they're saying is, oh no, I just settled. This is what, I thought I was pretty good, and audiences love me. So, that is a voice that is running the risk of running aground. So, simply because, the voice can run aground all too easily when there's no one at the helm and directing it, and often that direction comes from someone outside of the person. So there's another one, and in fact that's actually all of the myths I've got written down. I'm really keen to be reading some more of your myths, everyone. So jump in here. What have we got here? Bartek's written here, Dr. Dan, I was once told that training your voice more than 3 times a week is harmful to the voice and completely pointless. You know, Bartek, what I do is I encourage people to train, to work out vocally every second day. For those of us who are amateur singers and who are using their voice in amateur settings, where the vocal load, so for example, if you're in a church worship team, you're doing amateur theatre, every second day, you must always provide your voice with rest. Whether doing more than that is pointless, I don't know that we can say that, in the sense that, look, there are many things that you can be doing during vocal practice, and I don't know that, you know, just because you're doing it, you know, 5 days a week doesn't mean it's pointless. Because in fact, if I've got a singer who is about to go on tour, or if I'm teaching a student who is in tertiary, then I'm generally getting them to practice 5, sometimes up to 6 times a week, but no more. I've always got my singers taking at least 1 full day of vocal rest, because I want to give the voice that downtime. But certainly, you know, I don't think we need to be, in fact, I don't ever want my singers practicing every day. But yeah, anyway, Bartek, that's what I direct people to, and I've got videos that explain that in a lot of depth on the channel. You can jump over there and have a look. Some good discussion going on here. Bree has said here, I have a lot of natural vibrato. My old voice teacher used to tell me that I can't sing straight without putting strain on my voice, and I shouldn't try, but my choir director asked. Yes, Bree, this is an age-old one. Is you know, vibrato versus non-vibrato. In fact, this very question came up in my very first lesson today. Certainly in classical vocal, vibrato is something that we want to develop, that we want to be able to utilize, and it's something that is required, for the want of a better term. Vibrato it establishes itself in a voice that is mechanically free. So any structural tension, extrinsically and intrinsically, is going to work against the development of even vibrato. Now, that being said, let's now talk about contemporary vocals, because back in the 80s and 90s, we would, and when I first started teaching back in the 90s, you know, I was taught to teach people that you should have no vibrato in contemporary vocals. And I must admit, even then, you know, when Whitney Houston, you know, I'd look back on like a Whitney Houston and go, but hang on a second, there's vibrato at the end of her phrases, and power ballads have all this vibrato at the end of the line. Anyway, nonetheless, that's what I was taught, and so that's what I started teaching, until I started to become more confident in myself and started to go, no, this is not right, you know. And so in the early 2000s, I started to instruct, and this is what I instruct today. Vibrato is good if you can do it, but it's not the be-all and end-all. And in fact, some singers, we have a wonderful singer here in Australia. Her name is Kate Miller-Heidke. I've had the great, and I know Kate, and she charts here in Australia. It'll be a name not known to many of you, but here in Australia, she's quite a well-known name, and I've sung with Kate many times, many years ago now. But anyway, she's a classically trained singer who finished her classical training and then went off in the direction of contemporary. But the training of her voice classically has left her with quite a significant kind of vibrato. And that vibrato has become quite a signature of her vocal, which is, in my humble opinion, fabulous, because it distinguishes her vocals from other people. And so when I have students come in and say, oh, I've got vibrato and I don't want it, or I don't have vibrato and I want it, I go, look, chill out. It's, you know, I mean, funnily enough, we always want what we don't have, don't we? The reality is we've got to learn to be a little bit more content with what we do have, And then if we do want to develop vibrato into our voice, we can certainly go about looking for more freedom. And by virtue of, you know, the exact way we achieve vibrato, by releasing tension and having a freer mechanism, it is true to say that we remove vibrato by engaging more tension. We can actually load the larynx with a little bit more pressure, which causes it intrinsically to load up a little, and it removes vibrato. But look, do you know what? In my studio, I never intentionally teach it or remove it. I might say, oh, are you able to put a little bit of a, if we're doing a power ballad, you know, Whitney Houston piece, are you able to put a little bit of a vibrato on the end of the phrase there? If they can, they can. If they can't, they can't. I don't get really hung up on it either way, because I think, you know, it's contemporary vocals is about unique sound, and I'm always keen, as long as the voice is free and is agile and is efficient, then great. I'm really kind of cool with that. Okay, jumping down here. We do need teachers, Jean. Agreed. And no surprise, so does Karen. Let's go down here. Karen, another comment from Karen. Those people are the exceptions. I dare say there's a comment back up the way somewhere, Karen, that you're referring to there. But so many singers say that they've taught themselves how to sing, but they've done it with help and advice gained from online resources. That is true, I think. You know, it comes down to not all instruction is direct and formal. Sometimes it is informal, and that is very true. Okay. Bartek saying, so in short, the rule is that there are no iron rules. Well, yeah, in short, look, you know, and this might be a good place for us to finish off today. At the end of the day, there are rules. There are things that we need to observe. There are things that we need to develop. But we don't want those rules to be iron manacles that kind of, you know, tie us up into a straitjacket. And that's a mistake we can make when learning to sing, learning vocals, and learning anything. That, you know, is that, well, I don't want to be locked into a, you know, when I was growing up back in the 80s, and I was very involved as a young person in Christian worship. There was sadly a cultural thing that went on with that, and that was that, you know, it's cool not to be trained because that leaves you free to be expressive and what have you. No, that is a completely wrong concept. It's the old adage, you kind of need to know the rules before you can break them. In jazz music, we talk about the great jazz musicians learn to step outside the box. It's called stepping outside. And when they step outside, you know, what they've been doing, you know, for countless years is they have been running scales, you know, majors, minors, diminished, harmonics, you know, the whole range of scales, the blues scale, in every key. And they know these scales so intimately that they are then able to step outside those scales and use those as a reference point that they play outside and around of. And that is such an excellent example of, jazz musicians are such an excellent example of knowing the rules, knowing them intimately, and then being able to transcend the rules without actually ever breaking the rules. And that's what we're all on a journey with this learning to sing thing. And that's kind of what we're hoping to do with our vocals. We need to run the scales. We need to, you know, do our exercises. If you're looking for a great exercise CD, you can download mine. The first track is free. The details are running down the bottom there, and the links are down below. You need to do your exercises so that when you come to a song, your voice is set free to do and be agile in what you are thinking up here. There is nothing more frustrating for a musician than to be able to hear it. Where's my ears? There. To be able to hear in your mind what you want to be able to do, but to not have the mechanical skill to do it. Scales are the road to setting that up. So, yeah, I hope today's discussion has been a helpful one, and I've enjoyed hanging out with you guys. I don't think we've got any more questions coming in, and so I look forward to being able to hang out with you. And you know, I was thinking about, just to give you a heads up, I am starting to think about what is next year going to look like. I know it's scary, isn't it? We're nearly in November, which is kind of exciting, a bit scary. Yeah, so we're nearly in November, so I'm starting to think about next year and what is next year going to hold for the channel. And I'm getting a little excited because I've got some ideas around what we're going to be doing, and I'm hoping you're going to be a part of that. Of course, if this is the first time you've ever hung out with us, be sure to make sure you hit the thumbs up button if you've enjoyed today's live hangout. Subscribe to the channel and hit that white bell icon so that you receive notification for when we're hanging out. I'm going to be, I hope to, next year, you know, maybe it will probably continue as the hangouts as we do this year, but I'm hoping to add an extra video a week. At the moment, we kind of are sitting at about 2. I'd like to think we could do a third one next year. We'll see how we go. But I'm already making changes around the videos and the editing and the thumbnails. And so hopefully it's something that you guys as a community can be really proud of, to be a part of. I know I'm proud to be a part of you guys because you're such an encouraging bunch of people, and so I very much look forward to hanging out with you guys over the coming weeks between now and Christmas, and then I'm going to take a couple of weeks off over the Christmas. There's a heads up, and then we'll come back in the new year. Just so you know, for those of you who have been sending me messages and emails, thank you so much for your care about Jody and our family. She's doing really well. She had her 3rd treatment of 12 treatments yesterday, so a bit tired today with the chemo, but she's doing really well, and we're all doing okay, given the circumstances. Certainly we feel like we're a bit more on an even keel, but yeah, this week the chemo week's always a bit of a harder week for Jody, but I really appreciate your comments and your prayers and your encouraging thoughts. It's so wonderful to have you as a community, and I just know that you are there supporting us with your prayers and your thoughts. So thank you very much. I very much look forward to hanging out with you guys again real soon, but until I do, my name's Dr. Dan. Sing well.